Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general monthly reading for the sign of Gemini, Sun, Moon, or Ascendant for the month of April. I hope you're well. I'm using the Night Sun Tarot for you today, which is interesting because it's quite a dense spiritual deck, but then there's been something quite spiritual going on with you, Gemini, for a couple of months now. I maybe not be that surprised. What else do I have to tell you? At the beginning of the year, I did a 6-month overview for each of the signs. Now, obviously, we're halfway through that 6-month period, so I've knocked down the price of the extended readings to less than half price. I think they're like a couple of quid, £3 max now. But it's not about the money. I would like everybody to hear the messages that are in there. So if you're interested in that, there's a link down in the description box. You can go find it. And if this reading resonates, there'll be an extended at the end. Obviously, if you're on Patreon, you get that included in the price of your membership. So, can I have 3 cards for Gemini, please? That was the first one. We have the Page of Swords. We have a ton of cards that have come out here for your present energy. There's definitely something going on here because we have the 2 of Swords, we have the 6 of Swords, we have the 4 of Wands, we also have the Queen of Cups and the Ace of Cups. This feels like you're dedicating yourself to the building of something new, Gemini. Like I feel like you've been in a state of indecision about this for some time. I'm not going to take all of these cards, by the way, but this might just be a message for one of you. Now, I'm just going to tell you what is here. It feels like you've kind of toyed with the idea of something for quite a long time. And now, like, you realise that a lot of this toying has actually been procrastination. There's something here that you're working on. Creation of a new foundation, as we see here with the 4 of Wands. But it's flanked on either side by the Queen of Cups and the Ace of Cups. Right? There's great fulfilment in here for you, but it does feel like a very spiritual endeavour. It feels like almost the act of discovering that you were procrastinating over this has been part of your spiritual journey, right? Maybe there's something that you've had to confront. Right? And often when we procrastinate about things, it is because there's some level of resistance that we have to the idea. Maybe this has become now something that you're aware of, right? You've realised that you were afraid of doing this for some reason or another, and it feels like you're now facing it head on. That might just be for a couple of you. Let's have a look, see what current energy is for the collective. Thank you. We have the Empress. There's a lot of new in this reading here, Gemini. And what's coming towards Gemini, please? We have the Knight of Wands. Wow. At the bottom of the deck, we have the 10 of Cups. This is all about collective emotional fulfillment, right? It is the culmination of the Cups suit, obviously, because it's a 10. But it talks about more than just you. And this is important. This is perhaps something for you and your partner. This is something for you and a close friend. It could be that there is something about what it is that you're doing that you feel will bring something to a collective of any description. That could be the Gemini collective. It could be humanity as a whole, or it could be, focused quite deep. You'll have to take it as it resonates to you. So let's get some clarifiers here for these cards and then we'll get into this. Tell me about the Page of Swords, please. We have the 5 of Pentacles and we have the Magician. Tell me about the Empress. Ooh, we have the 8 of Pentacles and the Ace of Wands, both flying out together, very determined. I like that. I said there's a lot of newness about this reading here. Tell me about the Knight of Wands. We have the 8 of Swords and we have the Page of Pentacles. Fret not, because I think I like where this is going here. So, at the bottom of the deck we have the Sun. Card of Leo in the Major Arcana, it's numbered 19. Ooh, followed by the Hanged Man. Now, the Hanged Man is a card of Pisces, and it can sometimes talk about, it always talks about changing your perspective in one way or another, but that sometimes can come through submission. Now, I don't think that this is you sacrificing everything that you own, but it's about submitting to the energy that has been surrounding you, right? This realization of where the resistance was coming from. Notice here on the Hanged Man, we've got that, you know, symbol of illumination around his head there, right? And he's getting that illumination, that enlightenment, that wisdom from seeing things from a different perspective. But it looks just like the sun here, right? It's almost like the realization occurred in there, and now you are able to bring it outside of yourself, in fact, into the way that you are living in the day-to-day. I like this because it feels like a journey of self-discovery, but rather than it just being a journey of self-discovery, it feels like you're getting over a hump, Gemini. That's how it feels, right? And you realize that the hump was actually internal in some way or another, right? It was nothing to do with your external circumstances. It was about the way that you were perceiving things. So in your recent past, you have the Page of Swords. Now, this can be the Student card, but for me, the Page of Swords talks about that way in which, you know, on receipt of new information, we start to make new connections about things, and that does very much feel like what we're talking about here. In fact, the whole reading feels like it's got a tone here. Right? He is an information gatherer. Now, sometimes it brings messages and stuff like this, but this feels very much like up here. Right? Making connections about things that you had not realized before. And I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but now right in the background, very faintly across the sky, we have the flower of life. Is it flower of life? In the background, right? All these connections being made here. And what are they about? Well, we have the Five of Pentacles and we have the Magician. Now, two more perfect cards to describe what I've been feeling here you could not get, right? The Five of Pentacles is all about being in a state of poverty, of lack, right? Whether it's a fear of lack, which is basically being in a state of poverty, then, you know, if you're worried that you're not going to have something or you're going to lose something, then you are kind of rocking that lack mentality there. But for me, it talks about a card of not meeting your own basic needs in whatever way that applies. Now, for me, the Pentacles are energetic currency. So anything that you are capable of investing then becomes a Pentacle. So that'd be your time, your care, your effort, your energy, your love, all of those things, right? But here you are removed from those Pentacles. You know, they're up there and they're nice and shiny and all that stuff, but you're out here in the cold, in the snow. It can talk about abandonment and isolation or a fear thereof. But for you, it really does feel like there was something really quite important that you have discovered about yourself very recently. And the things that you thought that you couldn't do, the things that you thought you couldn't have, the things that perhaps you were, you know, afraid of. And we're back to this notion of resistance here, right? The realization is that this was all kind of self-limiting behaviour. It was self-imposed behaviour, because we have here the Magician, which is the card of Gemini for me. I know some of the readers refer to it as Virgo and stuff like that, but I've never quite been able to wrap my head around that. You know, if you know, like abracadabra means in something. Is it Arabic? I think it might be Arabic. I create as I speak, right? Which is very magician-like behaviour for me. And Gemini is all about speaking, right? It's all about speaking things into existence. And there you are. Now, the lesson of the Magician is that you have every tool you could possibly need to create whatever it is that you want. And I feel like the new information that came to you here, Gemini, was that you were standing in your own way in some way or another. The most important thing that you've discovered is why you were doing that, right? And that harks back to something very distant, right? Something probably really quite ingrained. But it feels like there's been a huge shift that's occurred for you with the realization of this. An empowerment for certain. But maybe all that was needed was a shift of perspective. You know, back to that Hanged Man there. It's not about this, it's actually this, you know. You are an incredibly powerful being, limited only by the bounds of your own imagination. It's never about this. You're a soul having a human experience, and you're magic as fuck, right? So we move into your current energy, and it is the Empress. Now, That for me is Taurus. I know some people read it as Libra, but it is Taurus. The act of bringing life and growing things and nurturing things, all that sort of thing. It seems to me a primarily earth element endeavour, not air. So that's why I read that this way. But she's all about fertility and abundance. She's often depicted as pregnant because she's literally gestating something new that's coming into the world here, right? And in fact, on her lap here, we have a broken egg. Taken the potential that you now realise that you have, and you've broken the egg, you've hatched something out, or you are in the process of hatching something out. It's interesting, she's got a crown of thorns across her head. This one. Which is a symbol of suffering, but it can sometimes be a symbol of martyrdom. And I wonder if you've let something get in the way. That's you know, the realization where the resistance is, right? All of that sort of thing depicted. It's this around her head here. But what we have underneath is the Eight of Pentacles and the Ace of Wands. Now this is extraordinary because this is you dedicating yourself to the creation of something new, right? How wonderful we should have this here. Now with the Empress, it's an unconscious action, right? We don't have to think about growing a baby, right? It just sort of happens. I don't really get involved in it at all, apart from, you know, making sure that we eat right and stuff like that. But the actual process of construction is something that is entirely unconscious for you, right? For us, for all of us. This here brings an element of the conscious into it. This is somebody who is really committing to doing something new, right? And we have, you know, creativity and inspiration. I have it really does feel like you've kind of flipped your life about, Gemini, to be honest. Because the Ace of Wands for me is often a card of the reinvigoration of life, like a remembering why you're here, almost. No, I mean that in a kind of abstract sense. It is the will to live, often. It is about being seized by something that is so creative and expressive that it comes pure from your soul, from your very soul, right? And you're working really hard to bring this in. Really, really hard. Consciously. And while other people are playing, you are dedicating yourself to your craft. Let's pull another card because I'm really curious about this. And by craft, I mean it can be anything. It could be a hobby. You know, perhaps you're thinking about setting up a new business, something like that. That's possible. But the reinvigoration is strong. We have the page of arrows as it is in this deck, but it's actually a page of swords. Ooh, we have the Eight of Bows, which is the hearth fire, and we have the King of Pentacles here. Yeah, like there's a lot of earth energy permeating here for you. And I like it because it feels like it's a way that you've taken this new information that you've discovered about yourself, this sense of empowerment that you now have, this creative input that has just suddenly arrived in your mind, in your soul, and you are absolutely working. Oh, it's going to be very, very crass there. I shan't do it. Working really very hard to bring it into the material, right? It's this pulling of something out of somewhere, whether it's here or there or wherever, and it's making it material. We've got the Three of Wands at the bottom of the deck. In this deck, the cards mean slightly different things, and the Three of Bows is fulfillment. Right? Now the Wands suit all about living and experiencing and things like that. It's experiencing that fulfillment in the right here, right now, on the thing that you are working with. working in. And then we have the star directly after it, card of Aquarius, but one that absolutely deals with kind of the future, hopes and dreams for the future. It's bringing it into manifestation, right? Which is what the Magician card, your card, is all about. We have the Page of Swords here. And it's a wren in this one. Now, I think I've spoken about this before. I don't know if it was with you, Gemini, but, you know, remember it's your page as well. I feel that's quite important. But there's an old English folklore tale about the wren and the eagle. I had a really funny experience once, right, which struck me as a little bit odd, involving a wren and an eagle. I was telling a chaos magician friend about it, and telling him about this wren that was flying around in my house and how it had flown out from behind a wooden eagle that I have on my windowsill. I said, and then I was wondering if there was anything, you know, if wrens and eagles were in any way like related. And he oh my God. And I'd gone and Googled it, and I'd found this old English folklore tale, and it was all about using your intellect. It was all about how the wren got crowned the king of the birds, and they'd had this competition. They decided between them that the best way to decide who would be the king that ruled all of the birds was to have a competition to see who could fly the highest, you know. So they all took off and they did their thing, and, you know, one by one the crows disappeared, and then, you know, the blue tits and all that kind of thing. And the one bird that continued to fly higher and higher and higher was the big, powerful eagle. And once it had got to the top, and it was happy that it had, you know, bested all of the other birds, kind of circled for a little bit, and then it began its descent. And from its tail, its wings, right, in its back here, there was a little ruffling, and then the wren flew out, and it flew just a bit higher than the eagle had been able to manage, right, because it was fresh and it was new. And everybody was like, oh, the wren. Like, the wren is a tiny, tiny little bird. Tiny little bird. But it's smart, and it's really, really smart, and it bested, you know, something that was much bigger and powerful than it because of the way that it thought about this. Very creative, very intellectual. Here it is for you. It could be that you feel like, say you're wanting to start a business, right? I can absolutely see the possibility of you wanting to start a business here, and I know that that's been actually a theme that's been going on for Geminis quite a lot, right? But you feel like the market is saturated in some way, right? There are lots of people doing what it is that you want to do. There's something about the way that you approach it, Gemini, which is different, which is original, which is smart, right? It's something a little bit more up here. And it's something that no one else is doing. It didn't occur to anybody else to do. Now, it could be, you could translate this across in a number of different ways. But the point is, the way that you approach it is unique. The way that you approach it is different. And you may not have, you know, the power or the reach or any of these things that somebody else has. But you've got that originality of thought. You've got that creative brain. And this will do you very well. We've got the Heart of Bows here, which is the Eight of Wands, which is called Hearthfire in this deck. And it sort of puts me very strongly in mind of the Four of Wands too. You know, we've got this celebration going on here. Now, often this card talks about communication, swift communication. And sometimes it can talk about a build in momentum. But it's interesting that it's come out here underneath this Ace of Wands. And we've already seen the Four of Wands in that big glut of cards that came out. Right? This is kind of extrapolated up. This is double four, right? And we've got this big burning hearth fire in the middle. What it is that you're creating here will be enjoyed by many people. And although it starts small, we've got the King of Pentacles here, right? King of delayed gratification, but also bringing things down into the material. You know, what you're working on here, it really does feel like it's the right way around, right? You've got the inspiration, you've got the hard work, you're planting the seed of something that at some point in the future is going to start returning to you here. And returning many-fold. That's how it feels the cards are speaking to me here. the message of this King of Pentacles, it's King of Stones as it is here, right? It's a big wolf, is not to lose sight of the bigger picture, Gemini, right? You've had the inspiration, you're working really, really hard. Make sure that you don't get kind of sucked down into the minutiae of things. Keep that broader picture of what it is that you're trying to attain, this goal here. And remember, in this case, it is about delayed gratification, because I think that that will keep you straight, right? Keep you right. So what we have coming towards you in April is the Knight of Wands, the Eight of Swords, and the Page of Pentacles. And this is quite interesting because the Knight of Wands and the Eight of Swords are quite different energies. They really do occupy different parts of the spectrum here. So the Knight of Wands is Sagittarian energy, and it's very impulsive. It's very spontaneous. It's kind of that. Right. On the flip side, it is kind of non-committal, but I don't feel that being an issue here. It's about being spontaneous, living in the moment entirely. Almost to a fault, actually, with the Knight of Wands. But it is drive. It is incredible motivation. You know, nobody's going to get into in the way of the Knight of Wands when they are on with something. So we've got this Ace of Wands, we've got this Eight of Wands here, and now we have a character who is able to wield this torch, as he does here, the wand, right, and drive forwards. But we have here the Eight of Swords, and that is all about mental restriction. Sometimes it's about feeling trapped. It often feels to me a little bit like not seeing the wood for the trees, right? Because yes, she is bound, and yes, she is blindfolded, and yes, she is surrounded by swords, and presumably she can hear the sound of the ocean, and she doesn't quite know how far away it is. She feels imperiled in some way or another, right? But the fact is, she's not bound loosely. She could just wiggle, and then she can take the blindfold off. From there, she can see how far away the sea is. She can see where the swords are. And actually, her route out is very, very straightforward. But the fear is keeping her stuck. We also have the Page of Pentacles, which is another card of a new start, right? But like the Page of Swords, the Page of Pentacles has a kind of student quality to it. It is about, well, because it's, you know, so low in the cool hierarchy, it is the first step in something. So for you, it's about the gathering of information with the Page of Swords. This is about really truly understanding the value of something, right? And so bearing in mind of what I've said here, it feels like there may be a setback, a minor setback for you in April, just a little one, in the way that you foresaw things going. The trick is not to allow this to make your progress falter, right? Because I see you kind of sliding back into your own mind about this and second guessing yourself. Maybe I'm not doing the right thing. Maybe I'm not on the right path, something like that. And actually, it couldn't be further from the truth. What is required is just, actually feels like an act of faith on your part. Yeah. Sometimes when we're doing what we're supposed to do, like everything, you know, all the challenges, all the obstacles, they just bow out, right? And we're just left with this beautifully clear, straight path. And we can just follow it and go, I know where I'm going, this is all cool, right? Sometimes when you're on the right path, you get kind of curveballs thrown in sometimes, and they're not doing anything other than teaching you to be adaptable, which is something that you do quite well anyway, Gemini. Mm-hmm. The thing is, I think the reason that there's an issue for you here is the fact that what you are doing is so very personal to you. It's so very personal to you that any kind of setback and even indeed any kind of criticism, implied or otherwise, that you might perceive from something would be enough to knock you personally, right? It would feel like a personal insult, a personal judgment on whatever it is. But it's about kind of pulling out what is useful from this. So to that end, there would be a message in here about not taking things so personally, right, for a start. but also about being able to perceive your work as something other than you, right? Something that you are feeding into. Let's pull another couple of cards because I'm really quite intrigued here. With the presence of the Knight of Wands, it feels like this minor setback, such as it is, whatever it is here, right, pulls you up short for a moment and puts you into, you know, just a very small spiral. Like, shit, am I even doing the right thing? Is this, you know, second guessing, all that sort of stuff. But then making you stronger in the long run, because it feels like it almost, what's the word that I'm after? It entrenches your understanding that what it is that you're doing is valuable, right? It's kind of asking you to have faith in yourself, right? Not everything that you do is going to be received wholeheartedly by everyone, right? Because some people just aren't in the right space to be able to receive it. Some people are toxic. Some people project a lot of stuff, and so, you know, they're going to see something in what you're doing that isn't actually there. You know, it's being comfortable with the fact that not everybody is going to love what you're doing all the time. Not everybody is going to be able to understand what you're doing all the time. And you know what? That's okay. It's absolutely fine, because the people who do get it are the ones that you're actually trying to reach here. Tell me about this Eight of Swords. Yeah, we've got the Seven of Stones, which in this deck is healing, right? Here, the Knight of Bows, which is the Knight of Wands again. Yeah. It actually feels, we've got the Injustice card at the bottom of the deck here. It feels like you're going to have a minor knock in some way or another, but the whole point of the energy, right, is to get you to kind of like redouble your efforts, because you know how important this is. You really know how important this is. We see this with the Page of Pentacles, right? The Knight of Bows is here to give you the drive to keep going no matter what. You know, the Knight of Wands has his detractors, and there are many, but a lot of people like spending time with the Knight of Wands because he brings something to the table, right? And it is courage, it is fortitude, it is that, you know, absolute single-minded approach to something. It's asking you to become more single-minded in that, right? Don't take things personally. An attack on your work, you know, will feel like an attack on you, but actually it says more about them than it does about you. It's asking you to have real faith in what you are doing. I like it. Right, if this reading has resonated with you at all, ooh, that's intriguing. Just hold that thought a second. There was a card that fell out to the right, and I've just turned it over, and it is the Devil in reverse. It's called the Guardian, actually, in this deck. Right? Big skeletal thing. But it is the Devil. It's reversed. I wonder if this is a deepening down into what was your original, you know, resistance to actioning this idea in the first place, right? It feels like a kind of more nuanced visitation of a further bit of resistance that you have, and it is underpinned by fear of something, right? Whether that is fear of judgment, fear of criticism, any of those things, right? But it's in the reverse for you. So this whole thing, actually, this whole event here is designed to get you to look at that a little bit more closely and then let it go, release it, right? Lose the fear, because, you know, whether you're starting up a spiritual business or whatever, and I know some of you are, but not all of you will be, it's not the end goal, right? And that this is not something that you just create and then it's done. You know, there's a spiritual journey here for you too. There is evolution for you here too. And the act of doing whatever it is you're working on, what it is you're setting up, is part of that spiritual journey, right? So the insights that you get into yourself, incredibly useful. I've said for a long time, like, every reading that you do changes you, and I absolutely hold by that. And I've been here on YouTube since July 2019, so you can imagine, right, between all of the YouTube and the Vimeo stuff, and then personal readings and that kind of thing, like, I am markedly different to who I was when I first started this process, and I welcome that. That is really cool. I enjoy it. And it was completely unexpected. That's the important thing. So, treat this as what it is, and don't get too sucked down into the injustice of it all. kind of pull up a little bit and look at what the energy is trying to teach you, because it's not trying to stop you from doing what you're doing. It's trying to make you stronger in what it is that you're doing, right? The Magician, you, doesn't pay attention to what other people think about things. Single-minded focus on what he is doing. Right, I am going to leave it there now. If this has resonated and you want to check the extended out, there's a link down in the description box, so you do feel welcome. But if not, no shade, that's not a problem. You've got this. You've got this. It's all good. Know that I love you all very much, and I'll see you soon.